All right, today is the last day that we'll be having any circling back at the White House. It was Jen Psaki's last day as White House press secretary. She held her final briefing, so we're going to send her off with a clip of some of her greatest hits. Take a look.
Congressional Republicans want to raise taxes on half of Americans, squeezing the budgets of middle-class families. The president does not get involved in the business dealings of his son. Because of the actions we've taken to address the Putin price hike, we are in a better place than we were last month. I think it's broadly known and widely known, Peter, that there was a broad range of Russian disinformation back in 2020. We're still at work on and improving a process and improving a system that was very broken when we took office. Some might say that the other party was for defunding the police. I'll let others say that.
Yeah. Joining us now with reaction is tonight's company, national spokesman and director of Black Media Affairs at the Republican National Committee, Paris Dennard, along with Turning Point contributor and featured author at BizPac Review, Erin Elmore. Good to see you both. You know, Erin, I want to start with you. When Jen was giving her final briefing, she thanked the press for their role in democracy and said, "I want to thank you for holding us accountable." And I'm going through as we listen to like those clips, and I'm saying she could say anything she wanted about COVID, about the Republican Party, about President Trump, anything, inflation. Remember, it was transitory, and never held accountable. There's no follow-up.
Why would you expect her to start telling the truth today, right? She has lied for her whole entire tenure, and I don't think she's going to stop now. And there's a famous song, "If your lips are moving means you lie, 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 lie." I think they're talking about her. But what I look forward to the most isn't her last day. I'm looking forward the most to her first day at MSNBC when her ratings are lower than a submarine. Her ratings are going to be so low, divers would say she's going to get the bends.
Wow. Paris Dennard, from an RNC standpoint, when you guys sort of do your fact checking and put out, here's what the White House said today in the briefing, do you think that there's been, how much pickup is there in the media when you try to hold them accountable for what they're saying from that White House press briefing room?
Well, you know, it's very difficult, Sean, and you know this particularly well, trying to hold the Biden-Harris administration accountable when you have a complicit media who is not doing their job at holding the administration accountable. So we can send out fact checks and send out our RNC research briefings and all the time. But the question then becomes is, will the media take that factual information and hold the Biden-Harris administration accountable through the questions that are being asked, not only to the press secretary, but to the president, since she hasn't done a one-on-one interview in like over some 90 days. But there's some whole host of issues that we wanted to get answers from. Like, number one, she never circled back on whether or not the president had ever been to the border, not as president or vice president, just ever visited the border. She never circled back and gave us a clear answer on Hunter Biden's emails and the 10% going to the big guy and his business dealings with foreign adversaries. Jen Psaki never circled back on apologizing to those Border Patrol agents who were on horseback after they maligned them and besmirched their character and lied about them whipping immigrants. That just did not happen. And even today, on the issue of just to the issue of the baby formula, she did not give the American people an answer as to when they should expect it to come back to the shelves. This administration has not been held accountable by the media, and they could do a better job, but Jen Psaki got a pass over and over again.
No, a lot of unanswered questions, Paris. Maybe, we talk about her going to MSNBC. Maybe when she's there, she's going to have a lot of screen time. She can answer some of those questions. But what surprises me is that, of all this accountability from the press, they never tried to hold her accountable for this conflict of interest. We've known for weeks now, maybe months, that she's going to MSNBC, yet she's continued to stand there at the podium, and which also brings us to the next conflict of interest of the incoming press secretary and her relationship with the CNN correspondent. Erin, your thoughts on that?
It's really damaging and dangerous, but this administration has no accountability. What's even more alarming about Jean-Pierre, was that Paul Pierre, right? Anyway, what's the most alarming thing is that she's also spoken out in very anti-Israel stances. And that, who is actually, by the way, doesn't the press secretary of the United States work for the American people? All people of all persuasions? She spoke out in Newsweek against the AIPIC group, which is a pro-Israel group, and she made defamatory statements about them. And she spoke and said, yes, the Democrat Party should boycott this pro-Israel group. So this is alarming. She has a relationship with a woman at CNN. Also very, very alarming. There should be that sort of separation. But as we see, no standards on the left, no accountability on the left at all. And if this was on the right, people would be banging their fists and screaming about how inappropriate it was. But of course, she gets a pass because she's a liberal.
Well, I was just going to say, as Sean can attest to that, I can imagine if this was the Trump administration, boy, we wouldn't be hearing the end of this for weeks on end. Paris, what say you?
You wouldn't. And you know, it's just interesting the difference in how they treat these liberal Democrat administrations versus how they treated the press secretaries that worked for President Trump. And I mean, I just think it's shameful that the media does this. They should be held to the same standard for every single person who takes the podium, whether they're in a Democrat administration or a Republican administration. But the American people aren't dumb. They see exactly what happens, and they want the answers. They're not getting the answers, and they're not being served well when you have a press corps who's not asking the questions in the same way they would do for a Republican administration. Because I guarantee you that that the issue of election rigging or whatever Karine Jean-Pierre said about the election being rigged, they would be. I look forward to seeing if they're going to hold her accountable and ask her about that, right. Because we know that this is election integrity is a very important issue, but it seems as if Republicans can't talk about it, but Democrats can talk about it when it benefits them.
I do want to play you one quick clip that does show, I think, the contrast between the briefings of the Trump administration and the briefing of her. Take a look.
My mother-in-law made homemade chocolate chip cookies for you guys.
When he referred to wiretapping, he was referring to surveillance.
It sounds like, Sean, that you and the president are saying now, well, we don't mean wiretapping anymore because that's not true anymore. So now we're going to expand that to other forms of surveillance. What's it going to be next?
Jim, I think that's cute.
No more bunny business. That's the line we worked on. Do you guys like it? Okay. Thank you for joining us, Easter Bunny.
Sean. Hey, Sean. Hey, Sean.
Sean, what about the Putin call?
A little bit of a contrast in how the press dealt with the Trump administration and how they dealt with Jen.